Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. This is the AFCON, the Africa Cup of Nations Asian Cup edition. Not sure how far I should dip my toes in this water, but we'll see. Hopefully, there's some interest. I'm just always yearning for international competitions, as I think they're the most interesting, and they seem to be fairly easy to bet because the favorites are rarely very good. Big problem is that a lot of times these teams get together for 2 weeks before a huge competition starts, and there's to me, a lot of difficulty in figuring out how to read your teammates' minds and where they're going to be and all that stuff. So come along. We're going to go through the futures of the Africa Cup of Nations and also the Asian Cup. And then go through match day one because there are lines out at Bet Online. If you're not a member there yet, check it out. I've got I guess a promo code or a bonus link in my podcast description. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, leave a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, please leave please subscribe. And in the podcast description, there's a bonus there, 50% if you're a first-time depositor at Bet Online, 50% cash free from them. So that will work. Or SportsBetting.ag, which is basically a sister site, and they're giving a 100% match. Both are linked in the description, whether you're getting this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or on YouTube. So go check that out. As if you haven't heard this already, I'm the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and on Twitter. DMs are always open. I try to check them as frequently as possible, but sometimes I get a little bit behind. But thank you for all the support, and let's get into this. We'll start in the AFCON. I think that's the bigger of the competitions, and certainly be a lot easier to watch here in the United States. We'll do a best bet end of show. Not sure where it's going to come from, whether it's a match day one type of match or maybe a future. But I'll start in AFCON, and I do have some, I guess, tracking on where pricing to win this tournament, where that's gone in the past few months. I grabbed something on the 21st of November, so a little bit before Thanksgiving here in the United States. And it started with Senegal as a favorite, 6-1 odds. They've taken some bets and are down to 5.5, but they've actually been jumped, leapfrogged, you could even say, by the Moroccans. Morocco started at 7-1, as I had previously logged. Now they're down to 5-1, probably based on their incredible performance and run to the semifinals of the World Cup, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of that, though, is based on defense. So if one of the best favorites in this competition is going to try to win and advance to the finals on penalty kicks, I think there's a lot of value in potentially going against them as what should be a big favorite in this competition, but also just even game by game, and especially in the knockout rounds, because it's going to be hard to win matches if you're just hoping to go to penalties. It also reminds me of the Egypt run to the final last season, which I feel like they had goalless matches over and over and over again, and that certainly pays out on unders, plus the in the spread as well. And I don't know necessarily if Senegal, who are, I think, defending champions of the AFCON, if they are at that same level as they were before, with Sadio Mane now playing in Saudi Arabia. Certainly some of the luster has come off that coin. But other, I guess, numbers of note, just to take what we have today. So Morocco are favorites to win the competition at 5-1, Senegal then 5.5. Ivory Coast, who are the host of this competition, probably should have mentioned that early. They are 6-1 odds, so a lot of names all in the same type of priced region. Then Algeria 7-1 with Riyad Mahrez, who's kind of gone off the beaten path a little bit, going to Saudi Arabia as well. Egypt down to 8-1 odds, which is always tough to throw them there with Mohamed Salah. 10-1 is Nigeria, one of the biggest names and most talented countries across Africa, but rarely seem to deliver on expectations. And they actually haven't moved. They started 10-1 a couple of months ago when I put this down, and they've actually one of the few prices that has not jumped at all or moved whatsoever. Tunisia 12-1, Cameroon 12-1. Ghana 12-1. So there's a fair amount of teams, and then we get to Mali at 22-1, which Mali I feel like had a lot of expectations the last competition and really underperformed. So we'll see if they can maybe rise up to those. It's probably a team that priced to where they are, considering the fanfare they had last AFCON. I'm pretty interested, but it will all depend on health and lineups and who's making the trip to this tournament. I haven't gone that deep into rosters just yet, but In terms of where the market has moved, I mean, Morocco's taken a lot of bets to become favorite, dropped 40% from that 7-1 to 5-1. So that's pretty significant. In terms of Cameroon, they've jumped from 8-1 to 12-1. Not great there, though they certainly weren't one of the stronger teams, but I guess they were listed fifth most likely to win the competition in just November, a month and a half ago, is probably the most accurate way to put it. Um, Other big movers, I guess not a lot. Maybe Ivory Coast getting bet because they're the host nation, down 16% from 7-1 to 6-1. And then it looks like in terms of long shots who have gotten some respect, not a lot of them, but you could say Burkina Faso, they're down from 50-1 to 40-1 win the competition. I always like to look at see who the market's betting. Just, I mean, it could be a few bets. You never know how liquid these markets are. But if someone's betting Burkina Faso down from 50-1 to or from 5-1, excuse me, from 50-1 to 40-1, then someone believes in them probably getting through that first group stage, and potentially maybe we look to back Burkina Faso because the market is certainly telling us something there. The rest have pretty much stayed the same or have climbed, including Tanzania, jumped up 36% from 80-1 to 125-1. So not a lot of love there. Maybe Ghana. So I guess if you're putting it in order, biggest move Morocco. Then next would be Burkina Faso. After that, Ghana, who are traditionally a great nation in Africa as well, and the CAF. And we'll see if this ends up turning into something. Another line that BetOnline's offering is the to make the final number, which to me is a lot based on your draw, unfortunately, and getting out of the group stage into your round of 16. But Morocco are the favorite there, 2.5-1, Senegal 3-1, Ivory Coast 3.5, Algeria 375, Egypt 4.5-1, Cameroon 5-1, Nigeria 5-1, and a lot of things pretty close, all below 10-1. So I mean, there's so many talented players across the top 5 European soccer leagues that I podcast about on the Betting the Pitch podcast network. That you'll see probably an episode coming out tomorrow for the European slate, finally getting some matches back and maybe some normalcy after a long winter break with a bunch of matches that I certainly missed even getting kicked off. But here we are, and it's been a good run. I think the cup competitions, Coppa Italia, the Carabao Cup, all the things like that across Europe has kept us alive in the game and potentially finding some soccer winners throughout this long period. But I am looking forward to normalcy. But it's going to be a little different because with these competitions going on, I'll get to the Asia comp next. But it's very interesting to me to see exactly what these teams look like. And it might take a little while to know what they're going to offer, but we might as well take a look. And I'll go through the AFCON, Africa Cup of Nations, and try to find a best bet there. And then I'll do one for the Asia Cup, and then I'll cut that into a minute on the real underscore G Warner on Instagram. That'll be my reel on Instagram or my story on YouTube. So if you want just a minute and you just want to pick, that's probably the best place to do it rather than doing these 30 minutes or so. We'll start on Saturday. We have the first opening match is Ivory Coast hosting Guinea-Bissau. Currently, Ivory Coast a 1.75 goal favorite. All the juice on Guinea-Bissau on the road. Over under is 2.25, and it's juiced all the way to over. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of low totals across these competitions. We saw that in the World Cup, and I expect no different here in the Africa Cup of Nations. Pretty big spread. I'm not really sure about Guinea-Bissau at this point, and we'll have to do a lot more research into this one. But pretty big spread for 1.75, even if it does drop to 1.5, with only a 2.25 number right now in the total. So if you like Guinea-Bissau, you probably want to play under. Take that extra 3/4 or potentially maybe full goal if we get some movement. Moving to Sunday, Nigeria hosting Equatorial Guinea. Currently, Nigeria 1 goal favorite with all the juice. Over unders 2, all the way juice to over as well. Nigeria certainly have some questions to answer. Not really highly rated to win this competition, but certainly have the talent to do so. Victor Osimhen, I've already seen them tweeting of pictures of him or maybe even videos. So that's huge for Nigeria. Really sad for Napoli as well, who've been really struggling without him this season. Egypt and host Mozambique. Currently, Egypt a 1.25 goal favorite at home, or not at home. And I guess I got to keep this in mind, in the Cote d'Ivoire. So ultimately on the Ivory Coast on a neutral site, pretty big favorite, 1.25 over Mozambique. Over under is 2.25 here. Juiced a little bit to over. Egypt's defense was really incredible and was a big run or reason for the run to the final in the last AFCON. I don't know necessarily if that changes or if that was more of a knockout type of style rather than because there should be much better than Mozambique over a favorite on a neutral. But it's a lot of questions about how good. Of course, as beeps are going off right as I'm podcasting, even though I did put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So we'll see. Ghana then hosts Cape Verde, or stop saying that. I'm so used to it. Ghana on a neutral to Cape Verde. They're a half a goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over unders 2.25 juice, very heavily to under. So not a lot of goals expected in this one. Ghana, they to me found a way, I guess, into getting past the group stages and competitions in the past, or even getting to the World Cup. Didn't look great doing it, but got there. And Cape Verde, I mean, they have a much lower, I think, expectation in terms of who their best players are, and don't have a lot of Cape Verdeans around the big European soccer leagues. But there's a lot of talent in this competition, a lot of unknown talent as well that's trying to display itself, get picked up across Europe. So wouldn't sell any of those short. Move next to Monday with Senegal and Gambia. Senegal, a 1.25 goal favorite, defending their AFCON title. More juice on their side. Over under is 2.25. Juice a little bit to under, or almost all the way to under, I guess. Need to do a lot more research on who's on this Gambia side, but I guess I'm just saying potential numbers out there, and certainly noticing that the totals are very low. No different for Cameroon and Guinea. Currently, Cameroon a half a goal favorite. All the juice in Guinea on the road. Over under is 2, and the juice is split both ways. It's the lowest total we've gotten so far. And doesn't feel like there's a lot of scoring expected across Africa in this first round. Algeria then take on Angola. Algeria, a 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice on Angola right now. Over under 2.25 juice all the way to under. Not surprised again by another low total potentially, and we might see that move to 2. Burkina Faso, who I mentioned, was taking a little bit of money for their future to win this competition, which is certainly alerting me to potentially wanting to back them. And after seeing a lot of their players wearing Burkina Faso wristbands throughout the European soccer calendar, I think that's cool. Certainly Tapsoba from Bayer Leverkusen has done that for years. Shows some, I think, when they're outside of their country, but still shows some continuity. I think that's important, though they're a 3/4 goal favorite to Mauritania, who have a pretty big juice number right there. So maybe this falls to a half. Over under is 2. And it's juiced to the under, not all the way, but getting close. So not a lot of goals expected there, especially when a 40-1 underdog to win the competition is a 3/4 goal favorite. Not a lot of offense probably expected in that one. Tunisia then take on Namibia. Currently, Tunisia a 1.25 goal favorite. I mean, they were a big surprise in the World Cup. There's more juice on the Namibia side. Over under is 2.25, juice pretty heavily to under. And then we'll go to Mali hosting or taking on South Africa, not hosting in the Cote d'Ivoire, but regardless, it's going to be a very hard habit for me to break, clearly. But Mali, a half a goal favorite. All the juice on South Africa. Bafana on the road. Not on the road. God, it's going to be hard to break. But anyway, they're not at home. I'll put that way. Neither of these teams are. Over-under is 2, with juice split both ways. So not a lot of expectations there. But it is pretty important to get that push on 2. And I'm waiting to see if some of these numbers break down in the 1.75 range. Morocco then take on Tanzania. Currently, Morocco, a 1.5 goal favorite. All the juice in Tanzania on the neutral. There we go. Over under is 2.5. And it's juiced pretty heavily to under there. And I think for good reason. I think that's really a bet against Morocco's name value at this point and being favorites in this competition. Pretty big favorites at that. And then Congo, the Dominican Republic. Wow. The Democratic Republic of Congo, Congo DR, they are a pick'em to Zambia. Currently, almost all the juice on Congo right now. Over under, here we go. A 1.75. She's all the way to over -130 at Bet Online. So imagine that will hit 2 before this kicks off, unless there's a huge run of unders across the AFCONs in the first match day. But seeing the last match of them all total that low is saying something. I'll be interested to see if this one does climb to 2. I expect it will. But honestly, books don't want to push that often, so they'll probably try their best to keep numbers away from very, very highly likely push numbers like that full goals of 2. And so in looking and trying to come up with a best bet for the AFCON portion, I don't know necessarily, because there's so many teams that are all around the same price to win the competition. I think for my real interest, it's potentially going against the idea that Morocco and their World Cup success will come about again here. Because I didn't really think that I mean, I guess they deserved it for how well they defended, but it's going to be a weird situation where they now are going to be on the front foot as a 1.5 goal favorite in their match day one opener in the Africa Cup of Nations in the Cote d'Ivoire. Also, the first match together playing, I mean, yes, you could argue that does impact the defenses quite a bit, but I think that really, I mean, what initiative is going to be fully on the Moroccan side. I'm going to go with under 2.5 in that one as my best bet for the Africa Cup of Nations. And then I'll go through now the Asian Cup, and then which is a little bit less wide open. I'll put it that way. But then we'll go through the Asian Cup and then summarize with a best bet end of show. So I'll give you that under 2.5 for Morocco, and they are on a neutral site against Tanzania. So let's go now to the Asian Cup, and I'll start with futures there. Favorites, I did not pull an earlier number. I don't know that they were available until I looked before this podcast today. But Japan 2-1 favorites. This is taking place in Qatar. I think after China and their no COVID policy basically forced it to be moved, actually even delayed because it's supposed to be in the summer of 2023, last June. Disappointing because that would have been a good time to have it. But now we have all these players missing from their club seasons, and a lot of adjustments need to be made. But maybe the chaos is good for sports bettors like anyone listening to this podcast. Again, if you're not a member by Patreon, check it out, patreon.com. So it's a real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my picks, plays, leans, write-ups, everything. The night before I try to get leans out, and then I update it through the day, and even send notifications out if you download the app. So you get a buzz every time I lock something in, so you can get the same number. So Japan, like I said, 2-1 odds to win the Asian Cup. And they're an awesome team and have players throughout Europe, and really are one of the most underrated, I think, in the World Cup stage, or on the World Cup stage, not so much in Asia. And they are 2-1 favorites here, which is pretty drastically low. South Korea or Korea Republic, they are 3.5 to 1. I guess priced 3.5 to 1 odds to win. Iran and Team Melli at 6 to 1. Australia at 6.5. Saudi Arabia at 7.5, Qatar, the host nation, at 9 to 1, and then we drop all the way to Uzbekistan at 28 to 1 odds to win. So pretty big divide. Looks like this is a 6-horse race potentially from Japan, South Korea, Iran, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. But I can't really say anything about big price moves or anything like that. There are some great players like for example, Jordan has there's the Jordanian Messi who's playing for Montpellier and scoring a bunch of goals in Ligue 1 this season. And I would imagine that total is going to be very low. But we'll get to the match day one prices and then come up with a best bet, whether that's a future or a match day one individual match. We'll start with Qatar hosting Lebanon. Currently, Qatar, 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice. Over-unders 2.25, and juice pretty heavily to over. I don't know necessarily what to take from Qatar. They've, I mean, been on the international stage a lot, getting an automatic bid to the World Cup and then getting embarrassed essentially at home. Also played in the Copa America and I think South America or the Gold Cup. And I thought looked pretty good in those competitions. Seemed like a big step up for them to the World Cup. But c'est la vie. I think Lebanon, I don't have a huge background on what they are as talent wise, but I'm interested to see Qatar, especially because they were at home, but maybe the divide in talent was so different in the World Cup that's why everything went so poorly. But I'm not really a believer in them. I'll put it that way. We'll move next to Australia and India. Australia, 2.75 goal favorite with all the juice. Over-unders 3.25, juiced a little bit to under, very slightly, just a 2-cent difference. So India doesn't seem like a very talented country in the soccer world. Australia, who moved in the Asia, I guess, area from Oceania in order to try to get competition like this. They then hosted an Asian Cup as well, and I think won it somewhat recently. So they look like a big favorite, currently 4th on the list to win it all. I'm not very impressed by their offense, but I don't know how India will defend. China then takes on Tajikistan. Currently, China 0.5 goal favorite right now. More juice on the Tajikistan, if I'm pronouncing it right. Please let me know. Probably not. Over under is 2. Juice very heavily to under. And that's what happens when you get a big favorite like China involved here, I think, or a sizable favorite at 0.5 goal and not really having much of an offense. Uzbekistan, a 1 goal favorite to Syria. A lot of juice on the Syrian side. Over under is 2.25. Juice a little, almost all the way to over. I guess this is where the divide. We go to Uzbekistan 28 to 1 to win, and then Syria down to 50 to 1. But that 1 goal spread feels pretty large to me. So I don't know. That's one I probably want to look into further. Japan then take on Vietnam. Japan a 3 3/4 goal favorite. That shows the divide from the big favorites to win this competition. Over under is 4, juiced almost all the way to over. I think it's going to be a tough one for Vietnam to say the least. Gigantic spread. It feels like a San Marino type of line in UEFA competitions. United Arab Emirates, the UAE, then take on Hong Kong. I guess, or its own nation. Don't want to start any issues here. But the UAE, a 1.5 goal favorite, and they've gotten some, I think, respect in competitions or just in their alliance in qualifications and things of that nature. Very juiced at this point too, as well. Maybe that's a more of a talking about Hong Kong though. UAE 30 to 1 to win this competition, and Hong Kong at 500 to 1 are tied for worst. Over under is 2 3/4, just a little bit to over. Really, it probably depends on how Hong Kong can defend. Iran then take on Palestine. Iran a 1 3/4 goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over under is 2 3/4, just a little bit to over. Iran have been great, but we're in Asian competition. We're not very good in the World Cup, and have a lot or had a lot going on domestically at that point with revolts and things, revolutions potential. I think that's quieted. I don't know how that impacts the Team Melli type of outfit, but they do get a Palestinian side that are very big underdogs here, to say the least. Next we go to Monday. We have South Korea and Bahrain. Currently, South Korea 1 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. I would expect that'll hit 2, because I imagine the best teams will get bet in this competition like they do in almost all. Over under here is 2 3/4, juiced pretty heavily to over. Really depends on the Bahrain defense, I would assume. Indonesia then take on Iraq. Currently, Indonesia a 1 1/4 goal underdog. Over under and all the juice on the Iraq side, so maybe this hits 1.5. Over under is 2 3/4, juiced pretty heavily to over. And I feel like the Middle Eastern sides are better than I think I would have expected. And kind of I learned from making lines for these competitions and international friendlies and such that Middle East seems to be a lot better at soccer than as you go further east into Asia. Malaysia then take on Jordan. Currently, Malaysia a 3/4 goal underdog with all the juice. Over under is 2 1/4, just a little bit to over. Like I said, the Jordanian Messi is probably going to be a big deal in this competition, and I feel like in a competition in Asia where there's a lot of weak sides, it might just take all you need is one really talented player, one who was producing in the league earlier this season, and maybe we'll see that could potentially go on an underdog run in this group or in this competition in general. Thailand then take on Kyrgyzstan. Currently, Thailand a 1/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 2 1/4, just a little bit to under. Kyrgyzstan tied for worst or least likely to win this competition. Thailand are not much better. They're at 200 to 1 to win, so not not a lot of title hopes in that one, but it's a big game if you get 3 points to advance out of the group potentially. Saudi Arabia then take on Oman. Saudi Arabia a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over unders 2 1/4, just all the way to over. Oman, I feel like smaller nation, but we're fairly competitive or price competitively. Looks like there'll be a 1 goal underdog. Saudi Arabia with that incredible upset of Argentina. But who are they and what are they on a level with Roberto Mancini taking quitting Italy, and where he potentially was going to lose his job to then take the Saudi Arabian one. Was interesting. I'm sure the cash made a big deal. That black gold was a big deal for him. But Saudi, I mean, I do feel like they're a little bit underpriced here, less than a goal, or at least it feels like there's not a ton of respect for them. So that's the end of our match day one. And I got to get you a best bet because I promised it. So let's figure out what I'm going to do in the Asian Cup. I don't know that. I mean, Japan at 2 to 1 odds feels fairly likely to come through, but South Korea would be a big problem for them, and they're close, less than 2 times their price to win. Two definite favorites there. I think Iran, then to Australia and Saudi Arabia and Qatar. To me, I feel like there's a big drop off between Japan and South Korea to the rest, as the pricing does show. So I'm not sure really that interested in taking one of those teams, though you probably could take both and one of them will likely win. I just don't know if that's necessarily a great rate of return or type of risk management type of strategy, just in life in general. Um, I mean, Japan also, I mean, being a 3 3/4 goal favorite, you'd expect them to get off to a really good start and probably use a lot of these matches as potential trainings for the future. I think for my best bet, I'm going to take that under 2 in China, Tajikistan. I just don't think China have any sort of uh, talent, it seems, on any sort of level. I feel like there's a good chance in this competition, like I talked about in AFCON, and especially like we saw in the World Cup. I mean, you need to have competent defenses, but I think there's going to be a lot of incompetent offenses in this. So I'll go under 2 in that Tajikistan China match is my best bet for the Asian Cup, at least on this first episode. We'll see if there's enough demand. Or if you guys like this, please slide in my DMs, the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and Twitter. If you like it, I'll probably do more of them because I do try to, or my plan is to try to follow these competitions. I don't know, A, how I'm going to watch it here in the US. That's going to be hard. But then B, if there's money to be made in it, or maybe there won't be. And that's probably going to be a quick decision. Though I do think maybe it might be one of those where we wait around till we get a little bit more competitive matches or lined more competitively in the knockout stages. Though it seems like in the AFCON specifically, there's a fair amount there as well. So I guess before I get to my ultimate best bet, as promised, if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com. So surreal underscore G Warner, best spot to get all my picks, plays, leans, write-ups, all that sort of stuff. If you're not a member of Bet Online or SportsBetting.ag, follow the links in the podcast description, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Spotify. You can go get some free money from casinos, huge. And I know they're running some big competitions, playoff predictors as well, with a lot of cash on the line. I think you can play for 100K with just a $20 entry, both at Bet Online and SportsBetting.ag. So check that out. If you follow my link, I think I'll get a little bit of bonus from the casino and make them want to continue supporting this podcast. So that'd be great. So check that out, especially if you're, I mean, having as many outs as possible in most places to place your bets so you can check prices and really just kind of even spread out your bets if they're the same price. Always a good idea to try to make sure you have as many options as possible. You never know what state you go in. Like I was in Louisiana recently, and for some reason I couldn't pull up Bet Online, and that really sucked. So some places are banished, and other places VPNs are very helpful. But check that all out. And just a programming note: I do have a college basketball podcast coming out with AJ Hoffman tonight, setting you up for the weekend. We have a Friday one, the Need for Seeds podcast, college basketball with Big East Ben. That's on this channel. So stay tuned. See that probably tomorrow afternoon. We already put out NFL playoff stuff with Andrew Schnicker, who's super hot right now, 5-0 his last 5 best bets, and our podcast as a group, 8-2. So we've been rolling, trying to get as much money as possible as we close out and really take this big run into the Super Bowl in February. So it's been a good run. Stay tuned. A lot more content coming out. We'll gladly accept any 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, and we'll read whatever is written in the description. We appreciate the support there, and it'll really help us get up the search ranking. So if you could do that, that'd be awesome. If you do it specific to a sport, I'll have whichever co-host of mine read it, or I'll do it if it's soccer related. And you never know what type of accent we can get out of guys. I would say Big East Ben, the college basketball one, is probably the most likely to make you spit out your water. So maybe be careful if you're at the office and you don't want to damage your company material. But I guess it's time for the ultimate best bet. So let's do it. This is the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and Twitter. This is Betting the Pitch, the AFCON Asia Cup of podcast. And we're going to go through the ultimate best bet. So from AFCON, the Africa Cup of Nations, I like the Morocco, Tanzania under 2.5 goals. Feels like a really big total based on a lot of expectation for Morocco. I also like the under 2 in China, Tajikistan. Just don't really believe in offenses in that cup really at all. And especially China is a big favorite, despite being really, really big underdogs to win the competition. But for the ultimate best bet, I got to pick one. You can hold my feet to the fire if this does not win. I'm going to go with that Morocco, Tanzania under 2.5. Just feels like a much bigger total than a lot of these African Cup of Nations matches. I don't believe there's going to be a lot of goals scored. Morocco had a big run in the World Cup because they defended and then won in stoppage time. They don't get that here after 90 minutes and plus stoppage time. Will get called, and hopefully it'll be 2 goals or less so we can all win. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Let me know in the comments or slide in my DMs or tell me in some way if you like this, and we'll see if we can do more of these going forward. But stay tuned. We'll do a college basketball podcast tonight, and then talk to you all very soon with the soccer one coming out this weekend. Need for Seeds college basketball coming out on Friday as well. So a lot to come, and thank you for your support as always. And make sure you check out our Patreon, patreon.com. So that's the real underscore G Warner.